Check one. Check 1, 2. Hello. Shabbat Shalom. So nice to have you here with us. And if you're joining us online, of course, it's lovely to have you with us as well. We begin, as we always do, with a little bit of music. And all you need are the words, Yai Lai Lai. I invite you to join me in singing. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la 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 lai lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la 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 lai lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la 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 lai lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la 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 lai lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai lai lai. Shabbat Shalom. We're here. It is so great to see everybody. This has been, for me, a 1.5 year journey to be standing on this bimah with you. So I'm so grateful that you all are here. I know summer times you want to be sitting at the beach as the sun's going down, but I'm grateful that you're here. And I hope that you're grateful that you're here as we welcome Shabbat and have some peace in our midst. And we also want to, of course, thank those who are joining and welcome those who are joining via our live stream, however you're connecting with us. We're glad that you're a part of our community. As we take a moment, our Torah portion this week is Pinchas, and in the middle of Pinchas is a long census saying who's who and how many of different clans are here. And in order for us to know that as well, we're going to take a moment and we're going to turn to each other, maybe behind each other, next to, in front of. If you have to get up so that everybody gets introduced, please do so that we're not praying as strangers. Go ahead. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la 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 lai lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la 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 lai lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 la lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. I want to say that this should feel different, but it doesn't, because I've been up here before, which is awesome. And this is just such an amazing, embracive space just sitting here, and I'm really glad to be here. But of course, there is some newness. There's a lot of newness, which we'll talk about a little bit later tonight. And there's been a lot of change in the configuration of our professional team. And we want to also, in addition to me starting in my official capacity this week, and Rabbi Brill joining us in a new, more capacity this week. My words will come to me as my heart stops racing. We also want to invite Scott Nelson, who is joining the professional team as the Associate Executive Director. And we're going to invite Missy is not with us tonight because she is up at Azrui with our kids, the Reform Movement camp up in Economowalk, Wisconsin. So we'll say hello to you if you're watching now or if you're going to catch us on the live stream. But we're going to invite Andy and Scott to join us on the bimah as we light our Shabbat candles on page 2. I invite you to join us in singing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
As we think about newness, there's a special prayer in Judaism, the Shehechianu, which is a prayer of celebrating newness. We say it anytime we do anything new for the first time or for the first time in a long time. I invite you to turn to page 344 in your prayer books. The second prayer on the page is a Shehechianu prayer, and we say, "Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, for giving us life, sustaining us, and enabling to reach this most joyous moment."
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kimanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh. Seriously? Come on over. How special. Really, very so special. That wasn't sarcastic. Turning back in your prayer books to page 10, we continue with words of welcome and togetherness, words from Psalms that we sing often together. Hine ma tov u'manayim, you sound so good. I invite you to continue singing with me. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 On page 13, you'll find the Hebrew. On page 14, you'll find the English. As we share more words of Kabbalat Shabbat, Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, sing unto God a new song. Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Turning now in our prayer books to page 20, we conclude the Kabbalat Shabbat section of our service with the words of Lecha Dodi, We are told to be as happy as we would be at a wedding at the arrival of Shabbat. And so we sing together the refrain at the top of page 20, as well as verses 1, 2, and at the bottom of page 21, verse 9. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat mikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat mikabela. Shamor vezachor beribbur echad hishmianu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad v'shemo tiferet v'ritchila lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat mikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat mikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'maksheva tehila. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat mikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat mikabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha u'tzola toch emunei am segula. Boi chala lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat mikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat mikabela.
There are times in life when we move around as if in a fog, and then something wakes us up. And sometimes it's a jolting wake-up call, the bad kind. A diagnosis or a trauma or a rupture reminds us of how precious life is. And then there are other moments in life where we get wake-up calls that are softer and gentler. I had one of those this week when I was playing with my 3 little kids on a blanket, and each of them had found something to do that they were interested in. One was doing a puzzle, and one was pushing a toy vacuum, and one was building blocks, and they were so beautiful with their plump cheeks and their sticky summer toes. But I wasn't looking at how dazzling they were, these blossoming blessings right before my eyes, because I was scrolling on my phone. And not just taking like a little break that we all deserve, but really tuned out. And my son came over and he looked at my phone and he said, "What are you looking at? Who's in that picture?" And it was some nonsense on Instagram. And I said, "I don't know who this is." And he said, "So why are you looking at it?" And I said, I don't know why I'm looking at it. And it was that sweet question that made me realize how tuned out I was from what was most important. And it was an invitation to put it away and to tune back in. The Baruch Hu prayer which we're about to offer says, "Am I awake? Am I prepared?" And it is intended to be a soft and gentle wake-up call to put down our phone, to put down what distracts us, and to tune back in. So we now rise in body or spirit as we turn to page 28 for this wake-up call.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Yalalai lai lai, 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 yalalai lai lai.
Please be seated. We turn to page 31 and we read together on the bottom of the page. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Page 34.
Our prayer of oneness, Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. We turn now to page 36 for the continuation of those words from Torah as we chant together the Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha ve'hayu hadevarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Turning now to page 40, our Song of Freedom, the words of Micha Mocha, more words from Torah. You really have sounded so good this evening. I invite you to continue with that spirit, with this particularly appropriate song to be singing along together to. On page 40, Micha Mocha. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Torah teilot osef eleh. Torah teilot osef eleh. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed.
So Jenny, my wife, who really wanted to be here tonight, but we're at day 5 in the house for the kids, we thought it'd be a little overwhelming to skip bedtime, is putting our children, Maggie and Aiden, to bed tonight. And every night as they go to bed, I sing them the words of Hashkivenu. I say, Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chaim. Spread over us a shelter of peace. Because in a way, every time, and this goes way before I had children, when I hear the Hashkivenu, I imagine us pulling up a blanket. And what happens when we pull up a blanket is we feel secure, we feel safe, we feel comforted. Maybe it's a weighted blanket if we need it. And I love singing this to them every single night. Sometimes they join in, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they say, Daddy, not this one tonight again. And I plow through it anyway, because it's really the hope and my prayer for them. So how excited was I when I learned that I was going to be coming to Sukkat Shalom, and that the name Sukkat Shalom, Rabbi Gordon and the community chose this name in the beginning because of the Hashkivenu prayer, because that temporary dwelling space of peace, no matter where we are, whether we are in here, whether we're outside or in any other space, we always want to feel safe and secure, and we always want to be bringing peace to any of those places as well. So I invite you to join us on page 42 for Hashkivenu.
Baruch atah Adonai haborei Sukkat Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai haborei Sukkat Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai haborei Sukkat Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael.
We turn to page 46 and rise for Amidah.
Chanting together in the middle of the page. Adonai, sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. On page 48. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekone HaKol, Vezocher Chazdei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Gigula Livnei V'nehem, Lema'an Shemo Ve'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Vezrat Sarah. Continuing on page 50. Ata gibor leolam Adonai, mechaye hakol ata rav lehoshia, morid hatal, mechalkel chaim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofech olim, umatir asurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומטמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol.
Please be seated. We continue together in English in the middle of page 52. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'mekadosh. On our Jewish calendar, we are in a period of time called Ben HaMitzarim, in the narrow place. It is a segment of the calendar that is 3 weeks long and represents a period of mourning in anticipation of the destruction of the temples, which is commemorated on Tisha B'Av. The cycle of Jewish holidays in some ways represents a psychosocial journey through the human experience. There are holidays that are about renewal and new beginnings, like Rosh Hashanah. There are holidays about the human need for joy and play, like Purim. Passover, of course, celebrates the human longing for freedom. And now we're in our calendar moment of mourning and reflection. And it's beautiful to notice how our tradition takes note of all the different places we journey in the course of being human. While we're in this narrow place in our calendar, we know that there are people who sit among us and people who we care about who are also in a narrow place in their life. Perhaps their life has been narrowed or constricted because they're consumed with worry, waiting for a doctor to call, waiting for test results, or maybe they're waiting for an apology. Perhaps your life right now is narrowed by aging or by illness or by any one of the many things that can make someone's life feel dark and dim and tight. So at this point in our service, we pray for healing and we pray for narrow places to become more expansive. So if you're praying for someone tonight, you can pray for yourself, you can pray for someone you know who you wish for them to move out of this narrow place. If you want to share their name with us, we will join you in our prayer. My hand will pass around the room and you can share those names. And if you're joining us online, you can feel free to share those names at any time. For healing and wholeness and to move out of narrowness, we offer our Misha Berach prayer.
Page 253. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We continue with silent prayer.
Rejoining on page 62. Words of peace, a prayer for peace. The words of Oseh Shalom towards the bottom of the page. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru.
On this wonderful and momentous Shabbat for our Sukkat Shalom family, we are so glad that our wonderful president, Lisa Fingerhut Carlton, has some remarks to share. So you may have noticed that Lisa's not in her regular seat over there. She is in Israel, and she will be joining us on screen momentarily. Lisa is in Israel studying at the Hartman Institute in Jerusalem, And she and the other Finger Hut Carltons are on a family trip there celebrating their 30th wedding anniversary. So Lisa and Jim, we wish you a happy and blessed anniversary, and we are so glad you're able to join us in this capacity to help welcome and celebrate Rabbi Immerman on his first Shabbat as our senior rabbi.
Brian, we really wanted to wish you a Shabbat Shalom on your first Shabbat at Sukkat Shalom. Here I am at Hartman in Yerushalayim with our good friend, mutual friend, David.
This is so bittersweet, but wishing you a wonderful first Shabbat. All of us at Mishkan Israel were really so happy for you and for your family. Who would have known that the last Shabbat that you had at Mishkan Israel, I would be leaving for Israel a couple of days and studying Torah with your new president. It's been a wonderful experience, and maybe we will now be sister congregations.
I hope so. So Brian, you know, we have very challenging conversations here at Hartman, but the thread between them all is Jewish continuity. And meeting David and now knowing that this is not being somewhere and starting somewhere else, you are the link in our Jewish community continuity. And you're continuing to build those relationships. So we just wanted to wish you a very special Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you to Lisa and David if you're up late night watching. David, if you didn't notice, was my previous president at Mishkan Israel in Connecticut. It wasn't super surprised because 2 weeks ago they sent me a selfie of the both of them saying, look who we ran into. Good things I know. Well, Shabbat Shalom. Again, it is so amazing to be here. So I was thinking about tonight, I was thinking about the Israelites' journey from slavery to freedom, which in of itself is a story of change. A combination of internal and external forces. The Israelites, of course, wanted freedom, and at the same time, they were liberated by God. And even when we want the change can be very difficult, as we see throughout the entire journey from Egypt to the Promised Land. Sometimes they even hated change. Moses, they cried, we had it so good in Egypt. We were slaves, but we had it so good. Where's the food? Why is it so hot here? Where's the water? Why are we still walking? Moses, we want to go back to being slaves, they said. Finally, on the precipice of even entering the Holy Land, they're standing on the edge. They see it in Deuteronomy. The Reubenites and Gadites still don't want to make the final journey. They pleaded with Moses and won that they would simply encamp on the outside exterior of what was supposed to be the Promised Land. Change can be very hard, especially when the status quo already provides us with everything that we need. In our Torah portion this week, we're confronted with a group of women who challenge the status quo because it doesn't necessarily meet their needs or everyone else's. We find 5 women who we usually refer to by their father's name and not their names. So I'm going to make sure I mention their name of Malcha, Noah, Hogla, Milcha, and Tirzah, who we collectively refer to as the daughters of Tzelophehad. If you ever become bar or bat mitzvah, or you just read this Torah portion, it's a great word, Tzelophehad. It's his name. And they go to Moses and they challenge the male-centric system of inheritance. After their father dies, they approach Moses. Let not our father's name be lost to his clan just because he had no son. Give us a holding among our father's kinsmen. So Moses goes to God, and God says, you know, these women are right. Go and change the laws of inheritance such that if a man dies without sons, any of his female heirs are able to receive the inheritance. And just because something has been does not mean that it always has to be. And in some ways, this is the story of Sukkat Shalom, of looking at this ancient tradition going back 3,500 years, where some things had always been in a certain way, although not in the Torah, and challenging the status quo, saying this does not work for us. We want to do things in a different way. And I know Rabbi Gordon went to God, and God said, "Yep, you're right, Rabbi Gordon." And although we talk a lot about Rabbi Gordon challenging the status quo of interfaith marriage and embracing everybody in our community regardless of their religious background, he and the founders of our community challenged so many things. And the other change I want to lift up is family school. Every time I tell any of my colleagues about family school, they say, that's the dream, that families would come and learn together, and it's not simply dropping off kids. And so what happened is there's an incredible community of Sukkat Shalom that was built on both embracing tradition, but also embracing change and envisioning what could be. And that's what drew me to Sukkat Shalom in the first place. But like the Israelite journey, the process of rabbinical transition is a combination of both these external and internal forces acting upon us at once. For many in our congregation, almost all I would guess, Rabbi Gordon's retirement has both meant an internal desire to find the next leader of this congregation, but also elicits sadness for someone who has devoted his entire life to this community for the past 27 years, but really even before that. And of course, we're also sad to have seen Rabbi Daniels leave as well. And she was so gracious enough to text me right before tonight's service a quick Shabbat Shalom, because that's who she is. I'm grateful that Rabbi Gordon is not gone, and I have and will continue to seek his guidance and his counsel and his wisdom for many, many, many years. He will continue to be a part of this vibrant community because he built it upon love, compassion, vision, and the ability to embrace change. We, which is you, me, the board of trustees, the clergy, the professional team, Rabbi Gordon and I are all taking a risk, but we're taking that risk together. We're partners on this journey, finding new and unfamiliar paths while celebrating what makes Congregation Sukkat Shalom special. And it's knowing that we are partners while wandering sometimes in the wilderness that gives me strength, courage, and most importantly, hope. I'm so glad, this is what I was saying while I was writing this, I'm so glad to finally be sitting in this magnificent building writing this sermon. I cannot tell you how overwhelmed I have felt from the warm embrace that Jenny, Maggie, Aiden, and I have experienced over the last really many, many months. And again, we wish that we could be here together as a family. We'll push bedtime in a few weeks for the beach Shabbat. Over the past few months, it's been as though I've been straddling these two communities, as you saw in the video. One in Connecticut and one here in Wilmette. And for the first time in over a year, my feet feel firmly planted. I'm glad I crossed that metaphorical river to arrive in my new holy place. At the same time, me arriving ushers in another stretch of unsettled time. Filled with change as I start to meet people for the first time, or the third time, but it's been many, many months since I've met you. It also means that you get to meet me. And together we're going to learn. We're going to share stories. I want to know why you love Sukkat Shalom, and I hope you're going to challenge me to say, why did you become a rabbi? Rabbi, why are you here? Because those are important questions for us to mull over together, and every time I answer, it's going to be a slightly different answer because we're going to have a slightly different relationship. But those are going to be holy and special relationships. And even though Kenny is filling this holy space with familiar music, and you've come to know Rabbi Brill quite well, I know that tonight feels just a little bit different because I'm standing here, because I sound different than you're used to, because I maybe preach differently than you're used to. And change can be both exciting and filled with new, and it can also be very hard. But just like the Israelites, we're going to continue taking those steps forward together. So this summer, we have a lot of work to accomplish. Personally, my goal is to meet as many people in our community as possible. please do not hesitate to reach out. And if you think, I'm going to let Rabbi Immerman settle in for a little bit and then I'm going to reach out, just reach out to me right now. Things never get less busy, I have learned in this world. And I'm always available for one-on-one meetings, no matter what's happening. I'm working with Doug Fisher and John Cooper and Jim Denton, who are chairing our transition committee, and we've created many opportunities for various demographic groups to get together, either based upon location or demographics. Many of those are already up on the website. If you haven't already been invited to one, everybody is invited to attend any, even if it's not your demographic or location. So please check out what's on the website, and I would love to see you at least one of those to have a little bit more community building. I want to learn the DNA of Sukkat Shalom as we move forward this summer. And please know that I am available for any pastoral issues you have, along with Kenny and Rabbi Brill. Whether you're ill, in need of comfort, or facing some challenge, you can always call the office, you can call our cell phones, or you can send us an email if you're trying to reach us. But I also have a challenge for you. I want you, over the summer, to meet somebody in our community who you've never met before. And I don't just mean tonight at the Oneg, although that would be great, but actually meet somebody. Find somebody and sit down and have a conversation with them. Ask, why do you love Congregation Sukkat Shalom? And tell that person why you are a member of this community. Because again, it's all about community and it's all about these relationships. This morning, I was sitting at BJBE with Doug Fisher, and I'm going to quote you, and I didn't ask, I apologize. And we were sitting at a JUF meeting, and everybody was talking about building community around Torah and worship. And that was the center of the conversation. But then Doug, after patiently waiting, reminded everyone that we don't build community around Torah. We build community around people. And that is what is so special about Sukkat Shalom. And then knowingly, Doug embraced the message in Deuteronomy, Va'asuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham, let them build for me a sacred space, not that I may dwell in it, that God will dwell in it, but that I may dwell among them. God dwells wherever we dwell. It's when we get gathered together as a community that we create these holy and special places. Whether that's here, whether it's at First Presbyterian's Garden, or at Gilson Beach, or at Central Station for coffee, or in our homes, that is what creates these really sacred, special places. And as we embrace change and strengthen our community, we also remain committed to the important traditions that make Sukkat Shalom what it has become. Whether this is your first year or your 27th year. Later in our Torah portion, there are 4 words that embrace this idea, and we usually gloss over them. These 4 words are, the name of Asher's daughter was Serach. And then it keeps going and listing the other tribes and the men in those tribes. So why should we pay attention to this woman who our sages call Serach bat Asher, Serach the daughter of Asher? Because Serach is listed as coming out of Egypt, and she's listed here in Numbers, but she's also listed as having gone in to Egypt. And our sages from millennia ago teach us that Serach bat Asher is the same person, that she spanned the entirety of the time in slavery and in the entirety of the Exodus journey. It was she who held on to the memory of where Jacob and Joseph were buried, where Joseph's bones were buried, happened to be in the Nile River in the Talmud, so that the Israelites could leave, because they made a promise that they would take Joseph's bones with them when they left. But it was also Sarah who holds all of these other very important touchstones and milestones that would have perhaps been forgotten if it wasn't for this sense of continuity. And of course, maybe in our own lives, we don't have somebody who's going to have lived 400 or 500 years, but we tell the stories, Lador Vador, from one generation to another. And so it's important that we don't gloss over this verse, because as much as we might embrace change and newness, we also need to always remember the important touchstones of where we have been and build upon that as well. As the Israelites embraced a change in a new world, she continues to keep them grounded. So through the new and the old and all of the in-between, I am so excited and looking forward to embracing this new beginning and this wonderful moment with our Sukkat Shalom family. Wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, a day of peace and rest. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Immerman. Turning now in our prayer books to page 282. Once again, if you are comfortable and able, we'll invite you to rise as we begin the concluding prayers of our service this evening by singing Aleinu L'Shabeach. Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol, L'Tet Gedula Le'otzeh Breshit, Shehu Noteh Shamayim Ve'osed Aretz, Moshav Yikaro B'Shamayim Mima'ol, Ushchina Tuzo Begove Meromim, Uveloheinu Einod, V'anachnu Korim, Umishtachavim Umodim, Lifnei Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On page 287 in the middle of the page. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. This week was, of course, the first anniversary of the shooting in Highland Park. And so on this Shabbat, we observe the yortzites of the 7 people who were murdered that day 1 year ago. The Talmud says that whoever destroys one life, it is as if they destroyed an entire world. And we know how true that is for the families of these 7 people. We also think about how many worlds were changed 1 year ago this week by that shooting and devastation, and the ripples of trauma, both direct and indirect, for all of us, because no one who lives on the North Shore escaped connection from the carnage and devastation and fear and loss that that weekend brought to all of us. We think about the people who were at the parade, who ran and hid and dove over their children to protect them, who searched frantically for their spouses, and how their worlds have changed. And we think about the responders who cared and healed and stepped up and opened their office for their colleagues when their office was filled with shattered glass, and we know that their lives have changed. Sometimes when we're remembering folks in a mass shooting or other tragedy, I have said, and other rabbis say, we take these names as our own when we share those names. And this week, those names literally are our own, the people who are in our community, who were our neighbors and our friends. I'm remembering our friend Jackie Sondheim, who was murdered 1 year ago, who was an incredible mother and wife and sister. She was the events coordinator at North Shore Congregation Israel, and she coordinated my wedding and bat mitzvah and my grandparents' funerals. And for me and so many other people, she made Judaism feel warm and embracing. And her absence on this earth leaves behind a gaping hole that she once filled with light and sunshine. And so is true for all 7 people who were killed, whose lives were rich and complex, and whose absence leaves behind a gaping hole beyond any words we could use to describe it. And so on this Shabbat, we remember those 7 people. We remember Irina McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy, Catherine Goldstein, Stephen Strauss, Eduardo Uvalde, Nicholas Toledo Zaragoza, and Jackie Sondheim. And on this Shabbat, we also make mention of the members of our community and our temple family who died recently and who died at this time in years past. And we remember with great love Alan Shefsky, David Kaufman, Virginia Ginny Kamen, Doris Mattress Cohn, Albert Paul, Ida Ketcher, Molly Levine, Carol Melnick, David Feld, Leonard Goldman, Robert Grossman, Lillian Pilcher, Charles Ross, Helene Haino Morgante, and James Crown. Are there other names to add to our list tonight? May their memories be a blessing. We stand together and turn to page 294. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam omei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shemei dekudasha, berechu. Le'ela minkol birchashta v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Vimru, Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, Amen. Please be seated. Just a few very brief announcements before we conclude our service this evening. Andy, standing in the back, are we in the foyer or upstairs? Upstairs, those of you joining us in person, we invite you to join us for a festive Oneg Shabbat as soon as the service is concluded, up the stairs or the elevator in our social hall. Next week, July 14th, we will have Shabbat services in the garden at First Presbyterian Church of Wilmette, just around the corner, 6 o'clock. We do encourage you to bring your own folding chairs if you have them, although there are some plastic chairs available to sit on as well. And then July 21st, our first of the season, Beach Shabbat at Gilson Park, down at the covered shelter. The map to that covered shelter will be on our temple website, and we encourage you to bring your own food so that we might share a dinner together after the service. And lastly, July 18th, we are having a playground meetup. I know a lot of you in this room are probably thinking, oh good, just what I've been waiting for this summer. But it really is open to everybody, everyone who feels like a playground meetup would be for them. We're particularly hoping to invite those with young children or grandparents who'd like to bring their grandchildren, guardians, things of that nature. We will serve ice cream. So 3:30 to 5:30, right there at Central School Playground, July 18th. I think I got everything.
You should have led with ice cream. We turn to page 5, 4. We turn to page. We doing Kiddush and Motzi? We'll do Kiddush and Motzi
upstairs. Yeah.
We'll do Kiddush and Motzi upstairs. We conclude with on page 299 with the words of our priestly blessing.
Come on down, you two. Stand next to me. Last week I was alone, and this week the team is here. It really does feel unbelievably special to be joined by Rabbi Immerman and Rabbi Brill. We've been waiting for this moment for a very long time, and it really does feel so, so good. So, so good. Shabbat Shalom to you two. Shabbat Shalom to all of us. On page 299, the words of the priestly benediction, I invite you to put your arms around the people you came in with. Extend some mental arms around those of you, around our whole community. And yes, you two know the drill at this point. Get on in here. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.